This is Josh King Randomness, and today I'd like to talk about property due diligence. So when you purchase a property, it's good to know what's going on with it. In my opinion, here's the bare minimum you need to determine before you even start, looking at documents to sign. So starting on the top here, historical ownership. You want to know who owns the property. Is it a LLC? Is it one owner that's lived there for 50 years? Is it multiple owners? Whoever's lived there will determine a lot the condition of the house. So, if, did they upkeep with the house or did they just let it fall apart? Encumbrances are any negative impact on the property. The most common ones are liens. In layman's terms, a lien is essentially someone could take your house if you owe them money and you don't pay it. So you want to make sure that there's no liens on the property. Most of them are public records, so you could find them. The most common ones are these. Mortgage liens. So if you have a mortgage on a property and you don't pay the mortgage, they could take the house. We've got contractor liens. If you have a roofing contractor come and replace the roof and you don't pay them, they could take the house. HOA liens, if you don't follow any of their BS silly rules, they could put a lien on your house. Judgment liens, if you got sued for something, your house could be used as collateral. Code enforcement liens, if you don't follow Muni code and say you have a car sitting in the driveway for multiple years and it's rotting apart, they could put a lien on your house, for example. And then there's also non-public records that you need to look into, such as unpaid utility bills. That's very simple. You just call the utility company. Property taxes, that is public information, but it's not, you just got to look that up. Code enforcement before public recording, so you just got to call the building department. And HOA debts, that's also coordinating with the HOA. So you want to look at the historical permits and repairs on the property as much as you could find. Every city and county typically has a permitting portal where you can search for permits. So you definitely want to do that. Any historical photos, you can see that. Google Maps, Google Earth, see what it looked like over the years, the house. And also, it's a red flag if repairs were done on the house and no permitting was performed. Okay, some other items to consider. Obviously, there's more than this, but you want to look at any flood risk on the property. That'd be looking at, the contours, geotech, the soil conditions. Any environmental concerns, did the house used to be on a graveyard or some kind of factory? There may be contaminants in the house, and you got to do certain conditions to the property to meet, government regulations. It's very rare, but it could be an option. Easements, if the government wants to do eminent domain and put a easement on your property for utilities, that has to be recorded, so you want to look into that. Something that gets overlooked is neighbors, if you have some noisy neighbors, that would bother me. So the people you got to live next to, so you got to look into that. Property boundaries, that's a survey, but you could find preliminary information on plat book maps. Again, in Florida, radon, there's sinkholes in Florida. If you live out west, you'd be more concerned with, rock slides, avalanches, etc. And then obviously being in Florida, if you live on wetlands, there's government criteria that you got to look at. So what I did was I just found a random house on Zillow here. It looks fairly nice. Aesthetically, the yard looks great. You can tell that it's new vinyl plank flooring. They painted the walls gray. They got some nice crown molding going across. They got modern fixtures. It's new cabinetry, new appliances, nice countertop. Aesthetically, this house looks good. We got a new vanity, a new shower in the bathrooms. You know, we got, it looks like a new patio with brickwork. It looks great. Okay. So let's look at the listing here. They're selling it for $469,000. We got the property address here. Okay, so I mean, we're just doing a preliminary look here. All right, so the first thing I would do is, every city and county has this, there's a property appraiser. So I happen to live in Alachua County, and it has just basic information on the property. We got the acreage, parcel ID, the neighborhood, who owns it. Look at that, it's an LLC. It has the market value over time. Okay, it has the basic information of the square footage, the roof type, the year it was built. As I mentioned in my home inspection video, the #1 factor of issues found in a house is the year. So the older the house, the more issues there are. So in 41, I'd definitely be concerned with any historical termite damage. If the piping's old, that's going to be an issue. If there's old utilities, you know, run in the attic or in the crawl space, I would need to look at all that. Okay, and we have the sales here. So we know on Zillow they want $469, and this LLC bought it for $128,000 in February. The date of this recording is November 19th. So that's a big jump. So we got 469 minus 128. So we're looking at, they're trying to sell it for $341,000 more than what they purchased it for. Them buying it this low makes me think that the house got auctioned off. It doesn't really matter, but them getting the price this low, they either did a short sale and took advantage of the homeowners being underwater on their mortgage, or the house got auctioned off on the county website and now they put a little bit of work into it, and now they're trying to get market value for their house. Okay. So what I do is, under any LLC, there's someone hiding behind it. So in Florida, for example, let's see here, you could go Sunbiz. This is to look up corporations, who actually owns it, and we could just copy the LLC into it. Next, Green LLC. If I could copy it, please work. Alright, let's put that in here. Okay, this is it. Alright. So the registered agent is Justin Green. So I live in Alachua County, and we'll just put Justin Green, Alachua County, see what comes up. Okay, this might be him. Alright. It's good to just look real quick, see if we can find anything on the person who owns the property. Here we go, Justin Green versus Alachua County. Okay, so there's some historical lawsuit. Looks like he sued the county to challenge the mask mandate during COVID. Okay, nothing to do with the property. I'm trying to see if they've done shady shit over the years. Alright, so it's just an LLC, that's what they do. Alright, now let's look at the property taxes. So every city and county has a property taxes where you can look at it. So let's see, property taxes, Alachua County. Let's see if they've kept with the taxes. Here we go, search for my tax bill. And we're just going to input the property address. Why is it doing this 12? That's 1212. Come on. Please work. There we go. Okay, so we're looking at the property taxes. Okay, so the annual bill just came out November 1st. It's November 19th. $5,400. I'd be concerned that it's been 3 weeks and they haven't paid that. So I would definitely check that. You don't want to pay for that purchasing the property. And then we're just checking every tax year to make sure that it's at 0. So all the taxes are paid up to what's recorded here all the way to 2001. So that's 24 years of taxes paid off. Okay, we could check that off the list. Alright, step 2 is the public records that was mentioned in the PDF. So every city, county has public records. You just gotta keyword into Google the public records and find it. So for Alachua County, this is it. On the bottom here it has parcel ID. So we're gonna go back to the property appraiser here. It's 10275. I'm going to input that 10275, all zeros after search. So this is what it's displaying. If there was liens, it'd be displayed here. So all we have is the deed from when he purchased it in February and some affidavit. So looking at the deed here, it's a warranty deed. So that means that there's 3 different types of deeds. We have quick claim, warranty, and general warranty. General warranty, the title company looked back all the historical years of the house from the very beginning, and you have a clean title, meaning that there's no encumbrances on it. You know, it's a clean transfer of ownership. This is semi-guaranteed, so they didn't go back all the way. They stopped at some point, so it's not as guaranteed. So it's in the middle. What you don't want is this one, the quick claim. There's no guarantee, so some lawyer just drafts it up real quick, and then you may or may not be the owner of the property. So I don't recommend that you ever have a quick claim deed. Okay. Going back here. The deed, all it has is the day of owner transfer. It has the legal description, the parcel ID, and obviously it just got recorded with the property appraiser, so that's all it is. Okay, so we checked off some of the items here. So these items would have been displayed with the property here, so that's good. We're not going to do unpaid utility bills. I'm not going to call right now. We checked the property taxes. Now we could get into the permitting with the building department and see if there's any been code enforcement red flags going on. So the city resides in the property resides in the city of Gainesville, which is in Alachua County. So we could just input the property address or the parcel ID number. We'll do this. All right. We're inputting that. Okay, so these are all the historical permits for the property. So in 97, a service upgrade to 150 amps, that's good, probably because the original wiring was knob and tube, given the house was built in 41. In 1998, there was exterior repairs, including siding replacement, so it makes me think there was historical water damage. So that these got closed out, that's good. There was repair roof from collapse. Okay, so there was some roof damage in 2015. All right. And since the LLC acquiring the property in 2025, these are the permits they've done on it. So they've re-roofed 25 squares. A square is 100 feet, so 2,500 square feet. That's most likely the entire roof covering. All right, that got closed out. The permit getting closed out means that the permitting inspectors, the city officials, the inspectors looked at the property and it met their criteria and they closed out. So that's always a good sign. Windows and doors, it was issued, it hasn't been closed out, so Like I mentioned, you want to make sure the permits are all the permits are closed out before you acquire the property. So you need to confirm on why it hasn't been closed out. Maybe there's still some inspections that need to be done, but you don't want to be liable for any open permits before acquiring the property. Okay, breezeway roof pitch, not sure what that is at the moment, but that was closed out, some kind of alteration. And then exterior wall correction action. Okay, so that was issued, that also hasn't been closed out. So let's take a look here. Alright, let's take a look at the inspections. So structural framing, okay. So structural framing inspection's been done. Let's look at the permit application. Okay. $2,500 is what he spent on it. Alright. Permit inspections. Okay, so these are the inspections that need to be done. So we know they've just done structural framing, so wall sheathing and insulation still needs to be done. Building final, all these need to be done. Moisture barrier, so this is not complete. So he's trying to sell the property and he hasn't completed the work on the property. Okay, so you got to keep that in mind. All right. Just by looking at it, let's see here. We're trying to determine if, as I mentioned, if he spent 300, even 100K on the house. Okay, so let's see how much he listed. Okay, so estimated cost on the roof, $2,400. So sometimes they lowball the cost of the roof, so they pay a lower permit fee. That may be the case here. It definitely doesn't cost $2,500 to re-roof 2,500 square feet. That's more like 20K. So I don't know how that flew by. All right. So you want to check that while we're in this site. Let's go back. All right. We want to code enforcement, search for a project. Okay. So this is the same thing. We're just seeing if anyone has reported the property for any items that people complained about. Let's take a look here. Let's see if there's been any complaints on the property. Yes, there has. Oh, look at that. Abandoned vehicle in 2000. Property maintenance 2000. Okay, it's going in descending order. Dangerous buildings. Caller states this abandoned house now has a wall that has fallen and you can see into the house. Okay, so that explains the exterior wall repair. Okay, so the home is in very bad condition. So all these have been closed out here. Overgrown. Raccoons and critters living in the house. So we're getting a lot of data on the house just by all these complaints on the house. There's a ton of complaints. Vacant house, overgrown, infested with rats. Okay, so this is key information here of what's happened with the property here. So the takeaway from this is you want to confirm all permits have been closed out. You want to confirm with code enforcement that there's no outstanding complaints and the property is satisfactory before you purchase it. Okay, moving on here. So we got that. Historical photos. So I don't know if you can do it in Google Maps. No, it's a Google Earth thing, but we could go down to Street View. Let's take a look at Street View. So we know all the work's done 2025, so this is what it looked like before. So obviously I'm seeing vines and stuff growing on the house. That's never good. Wood and vegetation don't mix. It's safe to say that there's been water damage. Lots of tree limbs. That probably explains the roof repairs. We go back in time here. So it's 2023. Let's go all the way back. This is 2007. Very blurry image. 2011. This is a better quality image. Yeah, I could just see a ton of vegetation on the roof here. There's definitely oak branches overhanging. That is not good. and the vegetation just gets worse and worse. So whoever lived in here did not upkeep with the house, and it'd be safe to assume that the interior probably matches the exterior. So that's what I mean by looking at any historical photos. And repairs that were performed, that no permitting. So we know that the roof, the exterior wall. So going on the Zillow description here, let's see what he did. Okay, a new kitchen. All right, so any remodel, you're supposed to get permitting on that. So that may be included with the exterior wall. I doubt it. So they should have gotten permitting for the new kitchen. The 2 new bathrooms require permitting. You don't need permitting for floor. You don't need permitting for paint. You need permitting for roof. You need permitting for HVAC. So if they replace the HVAC units, they should have got permitting on that. You want permitting because it shows that a professional did it, and it provides you a little reassurance that things were done correctly. You know, you have a professional do it, they're licensed. You don't want some Joe Schmo putting in a new HVAC system. So that's a yellow flag. I give that. It'd be a red. It's got to be looked at. Plumbing. Okay, that definitely requires permitting. What did they do? Did they do new cold hot piping? Was it the water or the waste? These are items that need to be determined. Electric. We know a new panel got installed in 2007. So what other electric was done? All right. Separate dining room, gorgeous fireplace. There's a separate 1-bedroom on the property. Okay, that adds value to it. Okay. All right, so those are yellow flags that need to be addressed. All right, now we're just going to do some miscellaneous items here. I know I'm missing some stuff, but this is just give you an idea of the bare minimum you need to do before, you know, even having an inspection performed. And once you have the home inspection, it's going to get into the nuts and bolts and see what actually was done, and does all the repairs and everything warrant a $320,000 plus increase in the property? I would say not. From what I've seen so far, maybe $100K has been put into the house. So this gentleman's trying to get a $200K profit, you know, just from sitting on it for 9 months. All right, FEMA flood maps. You know, just quickly see if the property is in a flood zone. So we copy the address, put it in here. All right, government website. It's going to be slow. Just seeing if the property is in a flood zone. So here we go. It's on the flood zone. All right. What else we got here? Any environmental conditions? There's a GIS for everything. So whatever you're concerned with, there's most likely a government GIS that you can pull from. So here is the Department of Environmental Protection cleanup sites. So just looking at it, Lewis Oil, some kind of oil cleanup. They used to be the regulations used to not be there, so they just dump oil and crap. So you want to confirm if there's anything around the property. The property is somewhere over here. There's a poor GIS, but you get the idea. Here's some more just GIS data that you can pull up. Water quality monitoring sites. Obviously, the property is on city the city utility, so the water quality is going to meet the government standards of that. So I wouldn't be worried about that. It'd be more if you're on well or something. So you know, there's stuff like that. Okay, obviously you're going to have a survey on the property. Let's see here, property boundaries. So we could just quickly do that. You know, book map. Let's see here. It's going to be on the deed. We've got too much stuff open here. Okay, so the lot, north 24-5, blah, 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 recording in Plat Book B, page 9. So every city, county, just like all the other stuff, you could look this up. Let's close that out, close this out. So we said B9. Alright. So plat book is, okay, why did that not work? Let's try this again. Warranty deed, plat book B, page 9. Let's go back to the plat book page of Alachua County. Let's close this out. Plat book B, page 9. Here we go. Okay. So what do we got here? We got Highlands Heights. Highlands Heights. What's the neighborhood? The neighborhood is Highland Heights. Okay, so we're going to click on some of these. Something to keep in mind here, 1925, so these have not been updated in a long time, so we're not going to get too much information out of this. Okay, here's the plat book. So what we're going to do here, this is just when they initially divvied out all the parcel boundaries, the boundary of the parcel. You're going to confirm that how it is in the survey. Essentially, a surveyor pulls information from the old plat books, and you want to confirm that no wonky stuff has gone on. If there was an easement, it should be recorded, but we haven't seen that, so there should be no easements on the property, so you got to keep that in mind. What else we got here? Neighbors, so it's something I'm not going to do it right now, but you want to keep in mind what's around. So, okay, we got Tom Petty Park here to the north. There's a dog park, and it looks like it may be less than a couple hundred feet away. Everyone's different, but that may bother me a little bit. Listen to dogs bark all the time, so you want to look at who your neighbors are. Maybe you don't care about that, but I do. You don't want some meth heads living next to you. All right. Radon, there's just more miscellaneous items. We're in zone 2, so for Alachua County there is some radon. What else we got here? Sinkholes. There's a GIS for everything. What do we got here? That's not it. We zoom in. So this is just sinkhole activity. These are all little items that you can keep in mind of. Wetlands. There's GIS for that. If you live part of your parcels in wetlands, you got there's government criteria for that. So yeah, that's the basic minimum. Looking at a property. Obviously, there's a lot more to it, and when you have a property inspection, it'll get more. You'll know the nuts and bolts of what's going on with the property and make a more informed decision. The whole point is you don't get screwed over. So, for this example, does the work done by the flipper, does it warrant a $320,000 increase in the property? That's what you got to ask. And whether, if some items were missed, and if you have to pump more money into the house to get it to, quality standard. So, this is a video. Thank you very much.